Hi everyone, it's Maddie Brady. We're here to get real about mental health. Stay tuned for some great conversations with some very special guests. Hi everyone, welcome to the Get Real Show. We are here with Jay to talk about men's mental health, financial health, and also what it's like to build the foundation and why that's so important.
Hey, what's up, everybody? How you been, Maddie?
I'm good. Thank you so much for coming up here.
Of course.
Traveled into the city for this. So I would love to get started. I thought it was super interesting how you want to discuss financial health, because that's something I've never really given a thought to before. But once you broke it down for me, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And definitely is something that ends up impacting your mental health for the long run.
Totally. So, hi, everyone. I do think the financial health is something that we don't talk about at all. And it's actually a real problem that everyone faces. You know, we're not all from money, and it takes a couple of bad mistakes to really mess up your financial health. Getting in debt, just being bad with spending and things like that can really impact your life. And I don't think everyone realizes how much of a toll that can take on your mental health. So they really tie together. I think something that we all have heard before is like financial freedom. You want to not have to go to work every week to be able to live your life. If you want to take some time off at some point, you want to get yourself into a position where you can do what you want to do, not have to slave on the clock every day until your retirement. So, and part of what I want to talk about today is building the foundation. And the financial foundation is something that is so important just in general, because we all are going to have a car problem. Things are going to pop up in life, financially, and if you can't handle it, you can really set yourself in a really bad position. You can almost mess yourself up for life if you make some really bad financial decisions early. So getting to that financial freedom as soon as possible is like something I think will free a lot of people of a lot of mental health issues. Hopefully you can get financially free really young and then get to live your life. So that financial freedom is like, for me, I know it's been not easy to do, but I'm happiest the saying that I've heard, money doesn't buy happiness. I think it does.
Yeah.
Not maybe all of your happiness, but not stressing about money has changed my life, because I don't know, the thought of not being able to pay a bill this month, or some people can't afford food. Think about having kids and you can't afford food.
Yeah.
That's got to be stressful. So, yeah, that's something I do want to talk about, and I think we need to talk more about. It's actually not too difficult to do. It's just a lot of discipline and education.
Definitely. I completely agree with you saying that the term money doesn't buy happiness. I think that pertains to material items will not bring you happiness, which I completely agree with. However, having the security to exactly what you're saying, if something goes wrong, worst case scenario, if your child gets sick, or just life has unexpected issues arise all the time, and being able to know that you're secure and stable for when that issue does come, because something eventually always does, that's the happiness. And I definitely think it relates to mental health, because the stress of not being able to pay your next bill, of not having enough in your savings, that's something. Stress is one of the worst things for your mental health and for your body. It
Yeah.
actually erodes and eats at your body. So having that extra stress, and I'm sure it plays into anxiety and depression. If you know you're not going to be able to afford rent, you're not going to want to wake up the next
Yeah,
day.
yeah.
You're going to have lingering anxiety hanging over your head. These are all issues that ultimately do link into
That's a good
financial
point
health.
of it eats away at you. If you can't pay rent next month, you're thinking about that all
Yeah.
month. And it's like, I hope you could pay it next month too, because if you can't do it next month, it just keeps compiling and it compounds. So, yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, I feel like you're just living in a constant state of that running around and anxious thoughts, and having to go the extra mile instead of being able to take off time, relax, self-care. Self-care is just out of the question
Yeah, yeah.
when you're living like that. How would you recommend to build that foundation, and how early would you recommend for people to start? Because I do think it's something that's not really taught in the school system.
Yep.
I know they touch on it a little bit, and I
Yeah.
think a little bit more now, but I don't remember being taught basic financial health or
Yeah.
financial
It's,
literacy.
I think it's something that we really don't get keen on until like you're getting out of college and it's like, okay, I need to start balancing my budget and understanding like what I'm making, what's going out each month. So most of it I think is actually self-taught where people learn it over time like, oh, I can't make these mistakes. But I learned, I've always been obsessed with money, especially just growing up. My dad always had the stock ticker on TV. Didn't know what that was for the longest time, but it just was ingrained in me to pay attention to what's going on, up, down, So, and then just getting older, once you start making your own money, uh, you can start buying things. You can go get those shoes. But if you want to buy a house, you're gonna have to hold off on a lot of shoes, right?
Yeah.
So I think the discipline part is what's not taught. It's like, hey, that's saving that money each month, eating at home. It's not always, you don't see the gratification right away,
Yeah.
right? It takes a lot of time and a lot of discipline. And part of that, I don't know if I'm trying to say this the right way, but that delayed gratification is so much better,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's something that's not taught, and I think that's an issue. I think it should be taught in school, like very young too, not just once you get into college and you got to start focusing on finance. It's like maybe sixth grade, seventh grade, like kids should know, like, okay, $20. What can you even get with $20? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember going to the corner store with a quarter and knowing I can get like two or three things. But if you save that quarter tomorrow and maybe someone else has a quarter with you, we can get a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I just always had that mindset of like really focused on money, and I don't know if it can be negative too. But like the obsession with money just was always there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe from my dad growing up, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something that should be taught.
Well, I know the delayed gratification is really the hard part for a lot of people, including myself in certain aspects, but getting to that finish line and being able to buy a home, I'm sure is a lot better feeling than buying that pair of shoes right then, or getting that new outfit that you really want. That gives you that high in a sense in that moment, but if you actually are able to sock it away, then set up the foundation for the rest of your life. I'm sure that's a lot better feeling.
Oh,
But
100%.
I do think it's something that people don't even know is possible. I hear a lot of people say, like, in today's market, in today's world, I'll never be able to buy a house. And I just don't think that's true. I think there's education around it.
Yep.
There's certain percentage that you can put down. And there are ways. When there's a will, there's a way. So you can get there. But I think there's almost this doom state mindset. And I'm sure that's from the corporations, from the top down, trying to teach people, don't even think about buying a house. It's not possible. Buy the outfit, buy those shoes,
Yeah.
because you're never going to be able to buy a house, which is just completely not true.
It's not true. And what I mentioned earlier about education is like, if you can learn a little bit of mortgage financing, like it's really just a YouTube lookup. You don't
Yeah.
need a lot of money to put down on a house. You really don't. So like that's even a myth. Sometimes there's no money down
Yeah.
loans that you can do. So it's education. And I just think a lot of people don't know. It's not something that maybe the man doesn't want everybody to know about, because they're not going to get, you know, all the money up front, like, you know, regular down payment. But it's just a lot of education.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then tying that back into mental health too, and learning from a young age, I feel like a lot of people wait so long to learn about this stuff, where then they just feel stupid about it, and
Yeah.
and they don't even want to educate themselves because they're so late in life, where they're so behind the curveball that they just don't feel like it's something worth looking into or worth doing, because again, that doom mindset, they just think, why even get into it
Yeah,
now?
yeah, totally.
So I completely agree that it is something that should be taught super young. And even you brought up some people do learn it in college, but some people don't get to go to college. And then
Yeah.
also, I even think that we're not taught young about loans for college, and maybe we should go to the cheaper school. Maybe we should try community college first and then go to that big state school, or
Yep.
that's something that's thrown in our face so young that everybody's trying to outdo each other and get the best education, which is fantastic. But if you don't have the upfront money for it right then, what's the most intelligent option long term, rather than what's going to look great on Instagram right now, or what's going to get me into that sorority right now, which is what happens a lot of times.
I would challenge most of the kids that went to school. Would you rather have spent that money on school or a house? I mean, you know, a lot of kids are doing great things from their school, but a lot of kids aren't.
Yeah.
A lot of people, not kids, because we're all grown.
Yeah.
But yeah, would you rather have spent that 100,000 on your education, or you know, you could have bought a house that appreciated a ton over time? So you know, that's a perfect example of the financial education. Is like, hey, school is not always worth it.
Yeah.
If you have a path and you know what you want to do and you can make money doing it, that's what you should do. But a lot of kids, you're 18, you don't know what you want to do. You're just going to school because it's the next thing you're supposed to do. And now you got a ton of student loans, and that's people still have student loans, and they're dying. And it's like, man, you've had this loan for 40 years. That's got to be stressful.
Definitely.
You know?
And I think education's fantastic, and exactly what you're saying, if you know what you want to do. I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, absolutely, if you know the clear trajectory.
Yeah.
But if not, it does not hurt to do that year at community college, or just take a year off and figure it out. Just at least know what you're getting yourself into when you're taking that loan out, because a lot of times when you're so young, I don't think people conceptualize what they're actually doing, and then they have that for the rest of their life.
Yeah, you know, it's true. I don't know the number. I'm a stats nerd, so I don't even know the number of like the actual dollar amount of student loans right now. But I do know that credit card debt just passed $1 trillion
Wow.
in the U.S. So just as a society, as a country, it's like that's a bulk of people that are going to be stressed out about their credit card debt.
Yeah.
One of the worst types of debt you could have. You should have just got a house, because that's a lot cheaper on a percentage rate. But
Yeah.
yeah, you get caught, and it's hard to get out of that hole. And some people never do, and it's just a lifetime of stress. For some people, it starts at 18 when you take out a loan to go to school.
Exactly. How do you feel about luxury goods and the whole chasing luxury?
So you said something earlier about money doesn't buy happiness, and it's the materials. I like nice things.
Yeah.
So when I get to hop in my Porsche every day, like, I like that. It gives me happiness. It
Yeah.
does. I don't know how else to say it. I like nice things. So material things do give me some happiness. I don't know about everybody. I don't want to be too cliche, but I think it's good to work for something and towards
Yeah.
something. And when you get that thing responsibly, because some people can get it on a loan and they can't pay it.
Exactly.
But if you get it responsibly, and I like nice things, so material things do give me happiness. But they've got to be done right. If you know you spent too much and you're in a hole now,
Yeah.
yeah, the Porsche is great, but I can't afford it. That's stress.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's okay to want nice things, but you just got to do it responsibly.
Exactly.
Sometimes, like King of Prussia Mall, you'll see the line outside the Gucci store, and it's like, man, I don't think everyone should be buying a Gucci bag. All of y'all don't need a Gucci bag.
No.
You don't.
Yeah.
There's other things to do. So it's a problem, but I also like nice things. So I hate to say, like, oh, don't buy a Gucci bag,
Yeah.
because maybe people like their Gucci bags. But if you can't afford it and you're buying it on that credit card, adding to that $1 trillion of debt that we have, it's not healthy.
Definitely. No, I do think so. I think more so when I say material things don't bring you happiness, I don't think it brings you fulfillment. For sure. It's never
Fair.
going, at least for me personally, it never has fulfilled me or fixes yourself internally or anything like that. But there's nothing wrong with setting goals and trying to get there. I think that's great.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you're not working towards something, then why are you waking up every day and going to work? So everybody has a different something. For you, it might be a car. For someone else, it might be a bag. For someone else, it might be traveling the globe. But whatever that why is, I think is very much needed, or there's really no reason to press on. But I don't think it brings fulfillment to people.
Yeah.
But I do definitely think, and I thought of it when you brought up the credit card problem, that a lot of people are chasing it before they are ready. And
That's exactly what that $1 trillion is.
yeah.
You know?
And it's definitely something pushed on to people where they look for it as a form of validation. So I think it is something that big corporations say, oh, if you don't have that Gucci bag, then you're not worthy. If you don't have that belt, then you're not worthy. So I think that's where the problem lies and how people get themselves into credit card debt. But yeah, if you're financially healthy,
Yeah.
why not? So I think really almost with everything in life, there's the pros and the cons.
Yeah, 100%.
So.
But yeah, you're like spot on with like keeping up with the Joneses.
Yes.
It's like, oh man, we're killing ourselves
Yeah.
to keep up with the Joneses, and actually no one can afford it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's totally agreed that keeping up with the Joneses is killing ourselves and causing a ton of mental health issues. So yeah, I agree with that.
Especially too, I was just thinking with the younger generation, their target for advertisements is always through TikTok and Instagram, and it's all these influencers saying you need this new blush, you need this new eyeshadow, and talk about learning something from a young age, then they're learning so young, okay, I need that because this influencer I follow said that it's the best. Oh, well, the next month she changed her mind. Now this is the best. Now I need to get that.
Yep.
And it's just that constant more mentality and not actually thinking, do I need it for myself,
Yep.
or do I want it because someone else said to get it, or because someone else has it and I'm trying to keep up with them or impress somebody else.
Yeah. I've never been like a super flashy. I mean, other than my car. I've never been like a Gucci bag. Like, maybe my shoes, I'll get some Jordans or something. But like my brother resells shoes now. And once in a while, I'll just take a pair my size because big brother tax.
Yeah.
But when I see like the prices on the shoes and how like the volume of what he does, it's like, man, these things are expensive. And it's really just because they're hot. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not because they're better quality or they're great for your feet. Like it's really just the hype gets them up.
Yeah.
And that is like it's almost a competition
Yeah.
to be the one with it. You know, like the new Supreme drop, and then you wear it, and then it spikes in price. It's like, for what? To keep up with the influencer.
Exactly.
So yeah, I agree with that. It's a problem because a lot of people can't get the next newest thing. Like, I want a new Porsche,
Yeah.
but I can't yet. You know what I mean? So there's always going to be a new thing. Yeah, that one, trying to keep up with the Joneses and the hype and the newest thing. There's always going to be a newest thing. So you're never going to have the newest thing. But yeah, agreed.
And I think to that, really, the only solution I can think of, and it might not even be the right one, is just to try to make sure that you're internally validated, so you're not looking for, I mean, it's fine to have passions and hobbies, and maybe you are into the newest sneakers and all of that, but to look at the reason why you're doing it and think, do I think these sneakers are really cool? Because I love sneakers too.
Yeah.
Or am I doing it because I feel like I have to because it's a drop right now, and that whole mindset. But I definitely think financial health is something that should be taught young and at all ages, and needs to be something circulating in education for sure. But then also, I would love to get into, so you were mentioning the foundation and building the financial foundation. And then also, I know you brought up fitness when we were talking prior to this, and what that really looks like for you and what you would recommend for other people.
That foundation is like such a new word for me, but I've been holding it because the financial foundation, the physical foundation, the mental foundation. We just talked about the financial foundation. When you make a mistake, your car needs to get fixed, and you don't have $1,000, that's more credit card debt. But if you've saved and you've got a nice financial foundation where you've got some money saved, you can handle those things in between life. You know, when you're physically fit, I know people who've been in the gym for 20 years. If they didn't go back to the gym, they're probably going to be pretty fit for the rest of their life, because over time they've built that beautiful foundation. So you can take days off. And then same with the mental health. We'll get to that in a sec. But when you build that really good mental foundation for yourself, you can handle things in life.
Yeah.
Someone bumps into your car, or your kids are getting on your nerves, or you got an annoying coworker. When you have that foundation built where you're like, the kids are just being annoying. Life happens with the car. Annoying coworker. There's always going to be annoying coworkers. So building that mental, financial, and physical foundation, like they have to work together to have good mental health, to me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that physical foundation. What I really like about like athletics and the gym culture is like you can't lie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you want to race, you know, you're a swimmer, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so if someone off the street said, "Oh, I could swim,"
Mm-hmm.
and I could probably beat you in 100 meters, like you can pretty confidently say, "No, you can't."
Yeah.
Uh,
Maybe not for me with swimming.
but
I'm more so a runner, but I
okay,
do swim.
running's even better.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, if someone says, "Oh, I could beat you in a mile," average person off the street,
Yeah.
you're probably not going to beat me in the mile.
Yeah.
So in the gym, when you see someone benching 225, like don't go bench 225 if you don't have a foundation where you say, "Oh, I can do it."
Mm-hmm.
So it's like those results don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
You can't fake it in certain aspects of life, and the gym and fitness is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's. I think that physical foundation is so important too because I don't want to like get canceled, but
You can say whatever.
yeah, yeah,
We're getting
I
real.
am.
We're getting real.
I need like a get real button. You know, the body positivity and that whole movement
Mm-hmm.
is great
Yeah.
because everyone's beautiful, right?
Yes.
But I don't think being unhealthy is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get canceled.
No,
But-
I
and
agree
it's
with
okay.
you.
I need a get real button so I can say I'm just getting real.
I agree with you, and this is what is challenging because right now I'm nervous too. Like, oh my gosh, we can't talk about this. But first of all, we're getting real. Second of all, this is just the reality that being unhealthy is not good for you. Forget beautiful, forget looks, forget what external validation or getting compliments or getting a modeling gig, forget all of that and just go to health. Being unhealthy or living in a body that is unhealthy is not good for you.
Yeah.
And that's not something that should be glorified or glamorized. I think you should love yourself at every point. So if someone is at a point where they are unhealthy, still love yourself and love yourself to a better, healthier you. It doesn't mean you have to hate yourself or talk down to yourself. Everyone has different struggles in life, and if that's your struggle, that you got to an unhealthy point, you still have to love yourself and have grace for yourself. But exactly, just love yourself to a better you, a healthier you, not
Yeah.
a better you, a healthier you, because there are a lot of serious health ramifications for not being in any physical shape at all. And it is something that's hard to talk about today because of the body positivity. And for me, I interpret body positivity as healthy bodies. And there are people that are underweight that are unhealthy,
Yeah.
and there's people that are underweight that are just naturally like that are healthy. And there's just a broad spectrum, but I don't think unhealthiness should be glorified.
Love it. Totally agree, and that's really my point. And I actually think that I don't want to say you can lie to yourself, but being unhealthy doesn't feel good.
No.
I really don't think it does. And you know, for me, I have to go to the gym because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Some things may not feel great. I hate doing cardio.
Yeah.
I hate running. You just said you're a runner. Like, oh God, I hate running. But after I do it, I feel great. So
That's lifting for me.
yeah. So I'm not on the camp of you can do nothing and be a slop and you're happy and
Yeah.
you feel good. I just don't believe it. So I think building that physical foundation early too, you know, is so important. And then you can take days off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can eat cheeseburgers whenever you want if you're going to go to the gym
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'm just on the camp of I like being fit. I like feeling good and feeling healthy. So yeah, I think it's really important for people to build that physical foundation
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, I think it's a beautiful thing when you see people who have been just so dedicated their whole life. When I see like 60-year-olds and they're still in shape,
I love that
it's
too.
like, it's awesome. I
Yeah.
saw in Central Park yesterday, this grandma had to be 80 years old on rollerblades with like, old funky music blasting, and she's got this pink outfit on, and it's like,
Hmm.
that's awesome. And I think that needs to be so promoted
Definitely.
versus being a slop.
I agree, and I think too. So I've talked a lot on this show about I've had a past with eating disorders, and people don't realize people and eating disorders are the number one most deadly mental health condition out of
Wow.
any disorder, more than addiction, more than any mental health disorder. Eating
Why
disorders
is
is
that?
number
I guess
one.
you can just kill yourself because you're not eating right.
Well, yeah, there's multiple different types of eating disorders. So there's anorexia nervosa, there's bulimia, and there's binge eating, and there's a couple more too that I'm missing. That are mixtures and different ones, but for each there's different reasons. Obviously, with anorexia, you can go into starvation and your heart can stop, your organs can fail. There's multiple different risks. Same with bulimia, you're damaging a lot of your internal organs, and then can also you're messing up your heart rhythm when you purge. So you can die from that. And then with binge eating, that's what people don't want to hear, is that binge eating is an eating disorder too. And the risk factors of that is diabetes and again heart failure, relates to a lot of these, but your heart can fail, and there's multiple different risk factors of binge eating. So I think people forget,
Interesting.
when you see a extremely emaciated woman or man, you think, oh my gosh, I hope they get healthy, I hope they're okay. But with binge eating, there's a lot of scary health factors with it too, that I feel like people just forgot happen. I saw something where someone said you don't oftentimes, yes, there's exceptions, but you don't see a ton of elderly obese people. And it's because there's a lot of health ramifications
Yeah,
that
yeah.
get in the way of making it to old age. So it's a really sad and dark truth, but
It's not sad and dark. Is what's crazy,
yeah,
to me at least. I'm
yeah,
kind of just a normal critical thinker with an average
I
amount of
like
common
that.
sense.
Critical thinking.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of common sense, but I got enough to know, like, why there's no old fat people? Because it's not healthy.
Yeah,
And I mean, when you really think about it, like I said earlier, I don't think they feel good.
no.
So that's bulk of their life. They're probably have issues with their mental health because
Mm-hmm.
they have problems with their physical health.
Mm-hmm.
Those foundations. It's like, bam, you mess up your physical foundation. It's hard. I think it might be pretty hard to have a good mental foundation too.
Yeah.
I know a lot of happy fat people too. So I don't want to make it sound like it can't happen, but man, it's got to be. I think it's got to be stressful. It's stressful on your knees.
Yeah. Well, I just know from my personal experience, when how my main thing is running, but I do a lot of endurance sports. But when I've chosen to take a step away and not run for a bit, it definitely affects my mental health. I don't feel like I feel like when I run, it gets my anxiety out. It helps me think more clear. It helps me just regulate my body as far as even eating and drinking water. It just helps me self regulate my mind and my body.
Yeah.
And yeah, when I've taken just stints off, I have not felt mentally healthy. I just really have not felt good about myself. And not in the sense that, I mean, there is the sense that you look in the mirror, you don't feel great, but ignoring that and just focusing on how you feel, you don't feel good. You just don't, at least for me personally. So I can't imagine being in a state where that's your everyday life.
And I think it's hard to have this conversation because, like we talked about the influencers earlier, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Jay's just saying every girl needs to look like Kim Kardashian, and it's like that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
It's, are you your best self?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's really all I think you should be.
Exactly.
And I think you really need to be in good shape to live a great life.
Yeah.
So at least that's what I'm holding myself accountable
Yeah.
to, is like, hey, I don't want to get fat because I like looking good.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to live long.
Yeah.
We just said there's
Me
no
too.
old fat people. So I want to be there for my kids and my family for as
Mm-hmm.
long as possible. So I try to take care of myself
Yeah.
that way. And I think well, for me at least, it feels good to know,
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm trying, keeping my foundation good so I, can last long.
Definitely. And even I went on a super long trail run the day that I had some friends up here for my birthday, and we all went out, and I was discussing, I was with a girlfriend, and we were talking about, I said, I personally cannot enjoy myself when I'm with my friends, when I'm in a state, especially because obviously I've talked about this a million times, I don't drink. So when I'm out with my friends and I'm in that high vibe social environment, I can't enjoy myself unless I take care of myself first. So I feel like when I do that long run, when
Yeah.
I do that long erg, no matter what I do in the morning, then sets me up to, it just raises your mood. I mean, it's just a
Totally.
scientific fact. It releases dopamine. It completely elevates your mood. So then when my friends come over and we all go out, I can be in a
up.
good mood, and
Yeah.
I'm not thinking like, oh my gosh, I didn't take care of myself today, or I still have this like lingering anxiety that I woke up with because I didn't release it this morning. So I personally just think that it's about a balance of all, and I can't have the one without the other.
Yeah. I don't understand how it's not something everyone likes to do. And it's such a like cliche thing, but it's like, we're humans and you're meant to move.
Yeah.
And you're actually meant to exert a little bit, not just move, but like, you're supposed to run a little bit. You're supposed to move your body. And I feel like not doing that, like you just said, releases dopamine, endorphins. When I don't do anything, I feel like crap.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long. So when I think about it, it's like, man, if there's people who haven't moved in 20 years, I don't know how you feel good. I don't.
And when you trace ourselves back to early day humanity, that's what everyone would go out and hunt and scavenge for food and get water, and every day was a mission to survive. And then at the night, everyone would gather around the campfire and talk to the ancestors and be able to enjoy themselves, sing songs, dance, whatever. But it's because all day they were surviving and exerting themselves, and we still have that inside of us. It's part of us that we need to somehow feel like we're doing something for our survival.
I feel like
and
we're
not
about
just
to
coasting.
start a fitness show. We're switching it up. But yeah, I think it's just so like it's on par with the financial and the mental. Is like that physical is so important, also overlooked.
Yeah.
I don't think as bad as money is, because you feel when you don't feel good. So the
Yeah.
physical, I think people know when their physical health is where it should be.
Yeah.
And where it's not.
I think it signals to other people too, connecting the two. So if you're in a business meeting and you're trying to go into business with someone, or you have funds you're trying to place with someone, or buy a house or buy a boat, whatever you're trying to do, and somebody shows up with a good physique, you know they have discipline, you know that they care about long-term gratification, you know that they care about themselves enough to care about you, or they take care of themselves enough to be able to provide a good service. And it is a bit of a signal to other people that they might be someone smart to go into business with. Again, that there's always exceptions to the rule.
No, that's
but
a perfect point though, and that's like the foundation. When you see someone's foundation, like physical, is so easy because you can see. You can't fake those muscles. You can't
Yeah.
fake the physique. So you know this person has worked out
Yeah.
and has been dedicated. So it's like that foundation, I can see it. And I think that's really cool about the physical foundation is like, hey, if you can't lie, you can't walk into the gym and do something because you think you can. It's like, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't fake the physique. And I really like that about the physical foundation. You can't lie.
Yeah, you can't buy it and you can't cheat your way there either, which is my new
No,
line
no.
for everything good.
I like that, yeah.
For fitness. And then getting into men's mental health too. I mean, all of this connects.
Oh, so much.
But there's so many issues today with men's mental health because I think we're in this weird time where obviously you're expected to be the man and be a provider, but then there's a push to show emotions, but then those emotions can be used against you, and
Oh, yeah.
it's really just a hard time, I think, today for men navigating. What is that like for you, and how do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, so I can't speak for women's mental health because, but for men, again, they all align for me. That financial and the physical, something about being a man and providing, like that's the most important thing to me. I got 2 kids, like they're my responsibility, and I love taking care of them. So I think every man feels that way. I think every man should feel that way. The thought of not being able to do that, you know, life happens sometimes. You might lose a job. It's like if you don't have that that financial foundation, you're just as a man, you're setting yourself up for failure because you got people to provide for. So it's like this stress that I know I've seen almost every man that I know deal with that. Like, if I don't get this thing done, go to work, whatever it is, to make some money, I got people that I'm providing for, and if I can't do that, like, when I've seen when people couldn't do that, men couldn't provide, and it's like you lose your soul a little bit. Like I've seen men like totally defeated. Like it's probably a perfect example is like, you ever see someone get fired? It's like it's you really hope that their financial foundation is good, but when you see someone get fired with kids or laid off and they got kids, it's like, man, I don't know how like you deal with that that feeling of like, oh man, I got people to provide for and I can't provide. And I've seen men with that look, and it's like, oh, that's I mean, I'm always reading news, finance news. Bed Bath and Beyond just went out of business like a month or 2 ago, maybe a couple months ago, and I think it was the CFO jumped off the roof of the building.
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
like, this is someone that's, wealthy beyond most of our belief,
Yeah.
and I'm sure he would have been fine, but that burden and that stress that he was probably dealing with, led him to kill himself. And
Wow.
it's something that I think a lot of men are just dealing with, the pressure and being battle tested out here to provide, and it's not easy. So I think it's tough.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a double-edged sword too, where if you're not providing, you feel that internal grief and that sense of sadness and sense of unworthiness. But then sometimes people work themselves too hard where they get in this hole and they're grinding, and you see a lot of people end up taking their lives or having a mental breakdown because they're too honed in on grinding and getting that money. And you see the same thing with people at Google and different companies, same thing,
Tons
jumping
of
out of their
layoffs just
office
happened. Yeah.
building, and really, really horrific things happening. But it's honestly on both sides, just creates that feeling of sadness, I suppose, inside of you if you're not able
I've
to
been
do
fired
it.
before with kids to provide for.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing like getting home. My son's getting off the bus and I'm home. And Daddy, what are you doing home? And it's like, you got to play it off.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the amount of pressure I was feeling. Like, all right, I got a couple months. Thank God I had my financial foundation like
Mm-hmm.
okay at the time, but um, I felt it immediately where it's like, oh my God, I don't know
Mm-hmm.
what to do. I'm about to call my mom and we're moving back in
Mm-hmm.
with these kids. So it's scary. Everyone doesn't have the ability to provide,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, it's been the most fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think that foundation thing. I keep going back to it, but when you build that foundation up, you can deal with life so much easier. Um, and then for men, that providing factor is so fulfilling. So, not recommending everybody go have kids, but that's like my favorite thing in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and that's my drive to want to keep doing better. Uh, is for them and to keep having the ability to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it's the most fulfilling thing for me, so I highly recommend it.
What else do you think is an issue with men's mental health today, or that you've
Yeah.
dealt with?
So it's really difficult to talk about your feelings. I think that's with everyone, but just speaking for myself, I know it's hard to be able to put my feelings into words sometimes, and I, th- I've found that in the attempt to put my feelings into words, um, my message can get confused. The person receiving the message I'm trying to deliver, um, it's hard to put your feelings into words sometimes. I think most of the times. Um, so it's like the one off chance that you're gonna get your point's gonna get confused, and then that can be used against you later too. So maybe they do understand what you're saying, maybe they don't. But the point not getting across, and then the you giving the opportunity to be vulnerable, and it can be used against you, is also so difficult. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I don't want to let it out because someone's gonna make fun of me,
Mm-hmm.
or um, they're gonna see me as weak, or um, maybe he's a little too emotional.
Mm-hmm.
But we are emotional. You just usually bury it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's so important to find the right person to talk to, and I also think it's a skill to learn how to describe your feelings.
Definitely.
Sometimes you may not know the right words that you're trying to say, so you may say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really carve out like the verbiage of your point, uh, I think that's a skill that you can work on
Mm-hmm.
over time.
Definitely. I think I've definitely had the discussion with girlfriends about sometimes men don't have the emotional intelligence we think, or we think they're not in touch with their emotions, but really you guys were not taught how to verbalize them,
Yeah.
or you might have emotional intelligence or be dealing with a lot and be extremely in touch with your emotions, but you don't know how to verbalize that to other people or have those conversations with other people, especially women too, because I know you brought up the point about people then using it against you, and that does happen sometimes, and it is something that at the end of the day, like when you do become vulnerable with someone, you just have to be okay with the fact that you're putting that out there and kind of use it like you said when you were talking about building the foundation of I'm putting that out there, and if you do try to use it against me, I'm okay because I have this good emotional foundation.
Yep.
And I think that's great too, building that emotional foundation. The more you build it, the more people can't get to you.
Yeah,
because
totally.
you're building like a force where I mean, on a small, very small scale, I know if somebody like jumps in front of me on a run, I used to be like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Now I just think, oh, whatever. But then that's happening to you all day.
Yeah.
And you just have to be able to navigate your way through that the entire day. But definitely when you bring up becoming vulnerable and having that be an extremely hard issue, that having that emotional foundation will be able to protect you from that, because that's kind of the largest scale possible, is somebody using your own vulnerabilities against you and just saying my emotional foundation is so strong that can't even get to me.
You just made a good point, and it's like, you ever drive in traffic and people are cursing out like, pull over, move up, and it's like there's really nowhere to go, but like the world around you is gonna keep, those traffic moments are gonna happen all over the place. There's gonna be someone's gonna step in front of you again. You know, you can't blow your top off because another old lady got in front of you on the trail today. If the third one did it and you're gonna punch her in the face, like, you can't blow up like that. So that's a perfect example of that emotional foundation. Is like, she's just, half the time people don't even see you. It's not worth you getting upset about. So perfect example of that emotional foundation is like, it's not going to bother me because Granny probably didn't even see me.
Exactly.
There's going to be traffic. There's traffic every day.
Exactly.
There's those inconveniences. You can't let them penetrate you too much, because they're going to keep happening.
And I loved how you brought up critical thinking earlier, having the ability to think and think about their side of the story. And the person in the car might be 90 years old. They might have just gotten fired. They might have had the worst day of their life. Like, we have no idea what's going on with anyone around us, and we're only responsible for our own emotions and our own responses to external factors.
Everyone's going through something. I mean, that's so cliche, but it's true. And when you get upset at those minor things, it's, to me, a sign of bad emotional foundation. It's like, you gotta learn to deal with life a little bit better, because especially, younger, I just know, like, you see young kids now and they're super angry, and it's like, yo, life just started, man. You don't even know that feeling of losing a job when you got kids to provide for. It's like, you don't even know that yet. So what are you so angry about? You got to learn to deal with life. And just to circle it back to the men, is like, I feel like you can only get that from a father or a father figure. Like, your mom can really try, but something about that fatherly figure teaching you that emotional foundation is like just so important for men. Moms try so hard, but you can't control a young man. Once he's sprawling up and you can't spank him anymore, like, if your son doesn't want to listen, he's probably not gonna. So it takes a father to be like, I think the father figure is so important, and it's like underrated on how impactful a good father figure can be for your emotional foundation. The father figure is like not as much in the picture as it should be. But moms try so hard,
Yeah.
and it's like sad, but it's true.
Well, I was even thinking when you brought up if there's an angry little kid, like what happened to them. They could have already had a very tumultuous childhood. They could be dealing with a lot, and that is really, and they haven't learned to regulate their emotions.
Yeah.
And that's why, because a lot of times, if they don't have a father figure, or they don't have, even if they do have their mother and their mother can't regulate their emotions, that's what people talk about when they say passing on family trauma is it might not, even though that child might not have had a catastrophic trauma in their life, that because their parents didn't deal with their traumas and their parents didn't deal with their traumas, it's just been passed on because they never learned the proper coping mechanisms.
Yeah. I know I got my emotional foundation from, I almost said the threat of my father, because he kind of kept me in check. You know, there are things I shouldn't be doing sometimes, and like when Daddy wasn't around, I wasn't as afraid to do it. But when Daddy was around, you know, you knew. So I just think it's important for the fathers, and for the fathers to be in a good emotional state too. Because if
Yeah.
you've got a toxic dad, you're probably gonna find no benefit.
And do you think if someone does not have their father in their life, that they should have male role models, whether it be teachers or people in the communities,
Totally.
uncles, anything like that?
Yeah, you got to find it somewhere. And you know, early at school. So I've had great gym, and I got a great dad. So, but other male role models in my life, you know, there have been great male teachers who have added to that emotional foundation of, you know, there were times in school, fights happen, but there was always that male teacher or counselor or somebody who would help work on that mental foundation. You know, now I'm a little older. I've got mentors that I've found over the years, and they've added to that, mostly the financial foundation, but the emotional foundation of, you know, how do you run your life? I don't want to say your life as a business, but like those mentors have taught me how to operate in the professional world. You know, things that my father couldn't do because he's, you know, my dad's in a different field. So the leveling up, it has really been, I don't want to say it like, but it's been so important for me. I wouldn't be where I was today if I didn't have those mentors who brought me in and said, hey, sit down, let me show you this. We're going to do this meeting. This is how we're going to run it. Let me walk you through that first. Those small things add so much. And I need to do a better job of getting with young kids because I don't do it. You know, the financial literacy and that all that emotional stuff, like I feel like our age group is at a good spot now where we could really start working our way down and mentoring a lot more than we do. So yeah, it's something I need to get better with.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think what you touched on is great, having male role models in your life, and for women having women role models in their life, because that's something, again, I think is getting a little bit looked over in our society, that women and men are intrinsically different from each other, and we have different issues that we face, and we have different factors that go into being mentally healthy or not being mentally healthy, and not having role models in our life really acts as a detriment to our mental health and to us growing or furthering growth, really just growing up and becoming a better person and building on that foundation.
Yeah. And I don't know how you always find mentors. Like, I've just been blessed to be in the right place at the right time. Usually they didn't come from like a program, or usually it's just someone I've met and blessed to have taken me under their wing. Everyone doesn't have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure there are programs and clubs that people can join. I don't know any, and I should.
Yeah.
I should be part of one, to be honest.
You should. You really should. I think too, coaches are great, managers. I'm sure you could reach out to. There has to be like LinkedIn groups.
Yeah, totally.
This is definitely something that I should look into as well.
Yeah, I'm surprised you don't.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. I think that a lot of my mentors in life, or people that I have learned from, have definitely been coaches, managers,
Yep.
Very sports related, just because that's something I was very involved in. I've found people very random ways, and even friends that are further along in a certain aspect of life. I know I always go to my older brother for financial help.
Cool.
So there's different people that I think of that have more knowledge than me in certain areas, and I have to acknowledge that I don't know everything, that I need to go to so-and-so when I'm looking for financial help, or I need to call somebody else when I'm struggling with athletics. And just building your network as part of your foundation, I think, is huge too, because at the end of the day, whether you're a man or a woman, you always need other people to help support you.
The network is so important. And what's really cool is, I've got my mentors, and I can go to them with a mortgage question, or I can go to them and ask them a family question. It's those relationships. And then even like you just said, friends. We forget, like, some of our friends are doing amazing things too.
Yeah.
And, get educated on what they're doing. Because, friends are also a great resource that people may not be tapping into like they should. To your point earlier, you see your friends at night and they're all turned up. Maybe you guys, I know me and my buddies do. Once in a while, we'll not go out, and we'll talk about money.
Yeah,
that's what we like to talk about.
I was just thinking that because I was taught, and I know a lot of people were taught, like, don't talk about money with friends or anyone else, that it's rude or it's just not polite. It's not the thing to do. But I've seen so many different clips and all of that to do that, because if you're not talking about money with your friends, what are you talking about? And that is something that I go to a friend that bought a condo, or I utilize my friends now, because I think, why, I know my friend just bought a condo, why wouldn't I talk to her about it instead of just pretending it didn't happen? Because I think those are very old-fashioned rules of that being impolite, or you don't need to get into the nitty-gritty where you're asking them the dollar amount they paid for it, but just maybe, how did you achieve that? That's really impressive, and I'm looking to do the same thing. Do you have any advice? So there's definitely a way to do it where you're not and maybe you do have a super close relationship with your friends where they don't mind telling you exactly how they got it or what they paid for
I'm
it.
that friend. But we don't talk about money. Like, that's such a thing. And I'm like the opposite, where I love to talk about money. That's like my favorite thing. I'm a dork about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know where that taboo comes from of we're not supposed to talk about our money. And I think it actually comes from that $1 trillion of debt, and no one wants to talk about. I bought these Gucci bags. That's my debt. It's like Gucci bags. It's like, well, people probably don't want to admit that. Yeah. So there's like that taboo of we're not supposed to talk about money, but I think it's so bad.
I think honestly it comes from the very top up, where the elites, the people with the most money in this country, don't want other people to learn, and they don't want other people catching up, or it's easy to control people when they don't have financial freedom, when they're relying on that next paycheck to make their rent. That's the easiest it is to control somebody. So I think
Think
that's
about how much
honestly a
money
lesson.
all these credit card companies are making from that $1 trillion of credit card debt that we have.
Exactly.
They don't
Exactly.
want you to pay all that off.
Yeah.
That's how they're making their money, and they are making their money. But yeah, I don't know how we drill through the world that you need to know about money and how to just set a simple budget for yourself. It's really not that hard.
Yeah.
How much do you make each month? How much do you have to spend each month? Like, at the flattest, you should know what your expenses are each month. Maybe food is variable. You know, maybe you'll eat out twice. I don't know.
Yeah.
But you should know what your rent, your car payment, your insurance. What's that number? Are you making enough in income to cover that? Like, you should be able to do that basic budgeting for yourself. And if you don't do that, your financial foundation is probably going to get messed up. Some people make so much money they don't need to pay attention to how many times they go out to eat.
Yeah.
But I don't. So, and most people that I know need to pay attention to it. No one's super rich
Yeah.
that I know. So if you're not paying attention to it, pay attention. It's real.
And if you don't have to, good for you.
yeah. I hope we all get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have anything else on men's mental health that you feel like you've dealt with over the years as well that you would want younger youth to know about?
So last episode I was on, I talked about my late brother. And I like to talk about it. He probably hates that I talk about it. But I like to talk about it because he's a perfect example of we just couldn't find what he wanted to do. Like, there was just a lack of finding a passion, that just daily grind of the job, and couldn't get over the daily grind type of stuff. And I see that it is permeating through especially my age group, but I just see it for men in general. It's almost like a lack of purpose, and you don't know what to do with yourself. And I mean, this is totally a joke, but at least girls can be pretty. If you're an ugly dude, it's hard out here.
Yeah. It's a joke, but it honestly is reality.
Yeah.
That a lot of women that don't know what they want to do are able to rely on that.
I don't know. As a man, you got to have a skill. That's my go-to is hone a skill, and you can hold that forever.
Yeah.
And when you are just lack of direction and you don't know what you're doing, you're a lot of people are miserable because they don't know what to do with themselves. You ever see a bored group of guys? It just seems so wasteful. It's like, I don't know. We could be nation building, and instead we're, bickering over who's got the next Supreme shirt. It's the lack of direction is just. I found something I like, and I'm blessed to have found it. Is the money and the finance. I love doing that stuff. But when you don't have a passion or something that's driving you a little bit, I just feel like you get lost.
Yeah.
It's something I see men struggle with a lot, where it's like, I got this shitty job. Most of the time I'm ugly. And you're searching for something, and you never find it.
Yeah. I'm going to go back to my comment because I know that's going to be taken the wrong way. I think I think that's completely true for men, 100%. I think for women in this country, in this day and age, you also need something, definitely. But I'm saying there have been people that skirt by, or in other cultures, women aren't necessarily expected to be the sole providers or the half providers or anything like that. So just worldwide, I know that that is something that women obviously do get away with and can use for their advantage.
Oh,
But
yeah.
with men, you definitely need to have something else. Even
I
if
need
you're
a I need a get real button. One of those real get real. Every
Yes.
time we're like on the edge of canceled. But it's true. I mean it in the nicest way. If you're a pretty girl, um, I don't think you get the same. And I'm like generalizing so
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah.
the pretty girl and the ugly dude, which most guys are ugly dudes. I think life's a little bit tougher for the ugly dudes.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's just, and I don't mean easier, but at least as the pretty girl, you'll get some confidence boost once in a while
Yeah.
from society. The ugly dudes, you're not gonna get that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sorry, that's just what it is. Like, you know, no one's gonna call you beautiful and pipe your head up on Tinder, and you're not gonna get girls in your DMs. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, a life as most men, to be honest, even good-looking guys, but especially the ugly dudes, it's hard.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day that everyone needs to find purpose.
And ugly dudes, I love y'all, but I'm just being honest. A lot of y'all are ugly. It's okay. It's okay. You know,
I mean,
I'm not on Vogue either, so I can't talk, but
I think at the end of the day, everyone needs to find purpose, but it is a lot harder, I think, for men to navigate sometimes. But obviously, women are also after finding purpose
Yeah.
as well. To wrap that up. But
just to bounce off that, like the purpose, it's hard to find something you like to do. Like, a lot of kids don't go to college and they just get a job. Not every job's going to be sexy. I think the key is to find a job that's going to make you money.
yeah.
You may not love your job, you know. There's I forget what his name is, but he spoke the other night and he made a great point of, do you think the person who started the coal mining company wanted to be a flashy coal miner guy? No, it's just that he saw an opportunity there. It's not a sexy thing to do. No one else wanted to do it, but he did it, and he made a ton of money. And it's just, things aren't always going to be sexy. They're not always going to be super fulfilling, but when you got that financial foundation building right, you don't care about being too pretty,
Yeah.
for the purpose. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And I heard you bring up a lot today, family, your wife, your children. And I do think that that's something that people are kind of veering away from as well, which could also play into that lack of purpose, because I'm sure I'm not at that point in my life yet, but I'm sure nothing in the world gives you purpose like having a wife and children.
Don't
or
rush
having a
into
husband
it. Let
and
me tell you,
children.
don't do it. But yeah, it's given me my purpose. You know what I mean? Before my son was born, like, you know, I was going to school, figuring things out. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But once he was born, it gave me such a drive to provide. You know, I can't
Mhm.
fail because I got that. Um, and you know, to your point, like my wife stays at home. I got two kids. We got the white picket fence life. Very traditional, right?
Mhm.
Which is, I don't even like to call it traditional, but that's what it is in today's society.
Mhm.
Um, and I think it's a good blueprint. Um, it's not. It's got to work though. Like
Mhm.
my wife, she may be a little bored
Mhm.
because she's always at home, taking care of the kids, running the kids' errands. You know, that doesn't sound exciting, but it's for the purpose of the family. You know, I'm blessed to work from home now, but when I used to work with your brother in Philly, you know, I didn't get home until 8 o'clock every day. I didn't even see the kids.
Mhm.
So it's like having her at home has been like the, has given me the opportunity to flourish a little bit.
Mhm.
So I think that dynamic really works, and it's almost underrated. And calling it traditional like hurts my brain because it's like it shouldn't. Not that it shouldn't be any other way, but um, the the family unit is so important,
Mhm.
and I think it's underrated.
I agree. I think that there are different ways to make it work, but having that family unit is so important. And as we went over, for many different reasons, from having someone in your life to guide you and show you the way, and just be there for you at the end of the day, and be an example of financial freedom, of fitness, of mental health for men, for women, for everything that we basically talked about in the episode, I think is
Yeah.
great that you're
Um,
teaching the
yeah, I
next
just want to
generation.
drive before we wrap because it's so important, everybody. Set yourself a simple budget and build yourself a financial foundation because life's going to happen. And for me, the biggest stress has been money.
Mhm.
Um, I wish I started earlier and was more educated earlier, but it's just education and discipline. It's not that difficult, and it's not a very difficult concept to understand. Build that financial foundation and that physical foundation and that mental foundation.
Mhm.
And I think that's like I'm going to draw that out as a foundation triangle or something. uh, but
You
yeah,
could
for
be
me,
teaching classes on
yeah,
this.
that's my new thing. It's my foundation triangle.
Mhm.
Um, for me, that's been the key to keeping my mental health in a pretty good spot. So
Yeah, that's great. And why is mental health so important to you?
that's a it's a tough question. It's you only got one life. Uh, I want to live it the best I can, and that mental state is like probably the most important thing. I know the physical and the financial are tied at number two, but if you're unhappy and depressed and anxious and all those things, it's hard to live a good life.
Mhm.
So that mental health, you know, is something you don't see.
Mhm.
You have to deal with it. No one can. It's something you have to figure out yourself. So it's like personal growth included, but for me, having my mental health in check, I know when I'm stressed out, and I know when I need to do something like go run.
Mhm.
Uh, it's keeping me alive.
Yeah. That's great. And I think this episode in particular was really important for me to bring to life because men's mental health is so important. And just the statistic of today that men unalive themselves at a much greater rate than women. and everybody mourns when they see their favorite actor, singer, dancer, rapper have that happen to them. But then to actually have the conversation and figure out why and what's going on with men's mental health is definitely an eye-opener that I think that other men should be listening to and other women should be trying to understand. So thank you for coming on.
Of course, this was great. I'm so
real.
proud of you. You're doing your thing. I'm loving the show, so keep it up because
Thank you.
it's so important for our peers to stay focused and work on that mental foundation.
Definitely. Well, thank you for coming on and getting real. Thanks for tuning in and getting real with us. Podcasts will be posted every other Wednesday on Spotify and YouTube. Please reach out via DM if you want to chat.